Take an adventure into the paranormal, where you will discover many haunted locations, hear personal stories about paranormal encounters, and see a supernatural world through the eyes of experienced paranormal researchers Joe Frank and Dr. Heather Leigh. Joe Frank is a veteran in the paranormal world, beginning his journey in 1986 as an apprentice, working alongside his mentors, renowned researchers Ed and Lorraine Warren. Today, Joe is an accomplished paranormal researcher, demonologist, consultant, and lecturer with over 37 years of experience. Dr. Heather Leigh is the founder of Exploration Paranormal, based out of Southwest Central Florida, with more than 35 years' experience researching and investigating paranormal activity. She is a member of Paranexus, Anomalous Research Association, and the Witches Paranormal Society. Now, your hosts of Passport to the Paranormal, Joe Frank and Dr. Heather Leigh.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Joe. How are you doing?
Hey, good evening, Heather. How are you?
I'm good. I almost said good morning because I'm so used to doing morning shows. And while that intro was playing, intro's amazing. Todd did a great job, but I was going to freak him up by saying he spelled my name wrong again. But Todd, no, you got it right. So he always laughs at me from behind the scenes. But yeah, looking forward to this. Is an amazing new adventure that we're starting. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you twisted my arm enough. I finally gave in. I'm usually on the other side being interviewed now.
Right. Now it's your turn.
Waiting to see how much trouble I can get myself into.
Oh, definitely. We can get you in a lot of trouble. But because we only have an hour, I don't want to waste too much time chatting back and forth. We could do that next week. But this week I have a special guest who I invited to be on our premiere episode. And so make sure you guys have your questions ready. Feel free to ask us any questions about the paranormal, because between Joe, myself, and our guest, you have more than 100 years of paranormal experience in front of you. So make sure you get those questions ready.
No, my wife isn't.
And one person got it right on our Facebook page. So let's bring in our special guest so everybody can see who it is.
Oh, my God.
Hey, John.
Buddy. How the hell are you?
I am good. How are you?
Oh, my goodness. It's been a couple of years, buddy.
Yeah, it's been a few. It's been a few since we caught up. Yes.
Oh,
absolutely.
My God. You know, so many times I've been looking to pick up the phone and call you. I'm so sorry.
Dude,
it's
with all of us. It's all of us.
You're still in the same place, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you're only 20 minutes from me.
Well, I'm a New Englander. We never move. We stay in the same spot.
I know.
I was born here. I'll die here.
We've been there for a while. Good to see you, John. Holy shit.
Good to see you, too.
Oh,
good to see you.
Yep. Thank you for joining us today. You know, you're not in trouble.
Nah, you can get away with a lot more today, Joe.
Oh, my God, John. So good to see you. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
What a blast from the past, huh?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we'll definitely get together. I promise you, I'll call you next couple of days. We'll get together.
Sounds good to me.
Yep. You guys living close to each other is like my living 20 minutes from the beach. I never get there.
All right. You didn't have to rub that in. Thanks a lot. Text me at the beach.
Kimberly's commenting she guessed right. And yep, she was one of the ones who guessed that it was John as our guest tonight. So I'm super excited. And I guess you could say I'm a little starstruck because I was actually excited that you even agreed to be on.
No, Heather, again, I agreed to do something with you. And Joe's, he's one of us old timers from the old time, the old school. And again, when Joe tells you something, he's been around for 30 some odd years, that he's telling you the truth. You can bank on that. And he's been around a very long time.
Well, thank God. I mean, John, you're obviously one of the very few that can vouch for me because nobody else is around.
A lot of them are all gone. I'm going on 51 years now being involved with this.
Wow.
So
yeah, you've been doing longer than I have. I know that.
a lot of the old timers are gone, but there's still a few of us around. A few.
Yeah. The day before cat balls were invented.
Right?
I'm gonna get in trouble. Somebody's gonna get mad at me for that. I'm sure.
I was gonna say, hey, I use fidget spinners, so don't even go there.
I used to use I still have it. I have a compass. It's a little army compass I bought for like $20.
Yep.
And I used to use it on investigations and see if the thing would just start spinning, and that didn't mean Satan was standing in front of me, but hey, you never know. Beats cat balls. They're good at Christmas time, though, to put around the Christmas tree.
Are you talking about the cat ball things that everybody throws on the floor and they light up now? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I know. Somebody out there is mad at me already, I can tell you. What do you mean, Joe?
Yeah, nothing's popping up yet.
Cat balls. You mean they don't work?
Oh. So I know one question that I get a lot, especially when people know that I know Joe, is what was it like to learn from the Warrens? And I figured you two would both be the perfect ones to ask that question.
Well, I'll let our guest go first.
Well,
you knew him before I did.
Yeah, that's for sure. Right, my entire whole existence of life.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, when I was 15, 16, just dropping food off at their house. My mom would cook different things, and sometimes they'd be getting ready to go out. And my uncle would just say, come on, go with us. And I would jump in the car with them. And, sometimes we just end up on a case. We'd end up different places, or you just never knew. So it was an adventure a lot of times. But I really didn't look at it as, something unique or anything. I had an aunt and uncle, and they chased freaking ghosts. That's how I viewed it and looked at it, because it's always been a part of our lives. I mean, how many, me and my 5 other cousins that grew up together, we're all in the same age bracket. We used to look forward to my uncle coming over at Christmas time or Easter, because he would start telling us ghost stories. So, again, it was the coolest thing with all that. The only thing I look at, and I probably, bothers me tremendously, is that I wish they were around, the both of them, long enough to see how, the movies worked out and, how successful some of that actually ended up going, as far as the movies go, with the exception of Annabelle. I won't even talk about Annabelle movies. But.
Well, yeah, we definitely lost Ed too soon.
Yep.
That was a shame, and, but John, make a good point. I mean, when I met them, I tell the story a million times, but I met them at one of the lectures in North Haven. I remember it was the Holiday Inn. It's now a Best Western, but it's still there. And they used to rent out a room, and then, they'd advertise in the paper. So I had seen them on television and print media and interviews and stuff like that. So Laurel, I mean, I've been with Laurel for 37 years, John. She still keeps me around, although I don't know why. She saw it in the paper. She's like, "Oh, the Warrens are lecturing right down the highway." I said, "Yeah, let's go." And then I remember, and John, you've probably heard me tell this story, but when Lorraine looked at me and she was reading my aura, I didn't know that at the time. She was looking at me like, she knew me. And she's like, "Honey," because she called everybody honey.
Yeah.
"Honey, have we met before?" And I said, "No, Lorraine, I've heard a lot about you guys and seen you on television." And I said, "I'm really excited to be here." And she's like, she goes, "There's a reason why you're here tonight. Make sure you come and see Ed and I after the show. I want to talk to you." Okay.
Yeah.
I was 18 years old in 1986, I think it was. And so we got through the lecture, and I know we only have an hour, Heather, so I'll try.
No, you're fine.
But, we got through the lecture, and afterwards, and Ed's like, "All right, come on, let's go. Lorraine, let's go." And Lorraine she was so sweet. She's answering everybody's questions. There's a crowd of people, and Ed and Tony are packing up. "Come on, Lorraine, let's go." He's going out the back door to the station wagon. And so we went over across the street. There was a diner. We always went to diners.
Oh, yeah.
Ed taught me that well. Every time we did a lecture or an investigation, we'd go to a diner and then recap the events of the evening and things like that. So I'm sitting across from her, and she's holding my hands, and she's reading my aura. And she said, "Honey, I can tell you were meant to do this work. Would you like to come and work with us? You know, and I'm like, wow. You know, I'm like, yeah. You know, so I mean, that's really how it started. She kind of, you know, Ed's like, come on, kid. You know how he used to call us all, kid. Come on, kid. What are you doing today, kid? Nothing. I'm just mowing the lawn. Put the lawnmower away. Come down. I want to show you something. You know.
Yeah.
So we go down in his office off the museum and it'd go over some stuff with me. But then we used to go to the classes at the Hawley Manor, and this little back room, probably a little bit bigger than a broom closet. And that's when Ed would bring in the tapes and the notes and everything that they had from Amityville and the Enfield Poltergeist and Rhode Island, the Conjuring movie, the cases the Conjuring movies are based on. And he'd play the tapes and okay, this is what happened. And I'm just in awe, you know. I'm like, you know, he's telling these stories and, you know, I hear him, this big, strong guy, you know, I'm not scared of anything. I was pretty scared. People like always like, oh, Joe, weren't you scared? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm human, you know. But so funny little story. First time we used to do psychic photographs, Stepney Cemetery in Monroe, where they laid to rest. And I went out and I bought a new camera for the occasion. I brought a brand new, I think it was a Vivitar, because I couldn't afford a Canon. Still can't. So I'm taking pictures. He's like, all right, make sure you load the film. I got 400 speed film. I loaded the camera. And we're going around, and Ed's like, God, look at your good headstone, Joe. Take a picture of that. So I'm clicking away for about 15, 20 minutes. He's like, Joe, you got to take the lens cap off. So I'm sitting there clicking pictures, and I still got the lens cap on this new camera. So that was my start, you know, into this field. And I tell the story. It's funny when I lecture. You know, it kind of breaks the ice, you know, because people always want to know, what were they like? You know, I said, well, they were like grandparents to me. I mean, I didn't look at them as the famous, you know, world-renowned warriors. I looked at them as like grandparents. I mean, they were just normal people. Yeah. You know, and wonderful people they were. Wonderful people they were. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, I always love listening to the different stories. I never met them in person, but I always felt like Lorraine was kind of like a second grandma or a third grandma. Just always felt like she was there leading the way.
Yeah,
you know, whether she was or she wasn't, she just always felt like she was there.
Yeah. Yeah. She was very sweet.
Yeah, he has me laughing with the camera there. We were coming home one night, Joe, going by where the white lady appeared, cemetery. We're driving home from a case. Yeah. Lorraine screams, "Stop the car!" Ed slams on the brakes. 4 or 5 of us get out of the car. Lorraine says she's going to appear. So we're all standing there, and she slowly walked back. You can see her walking. All of a sudden, I feel a smack on the back of me. My uncle goes, "You're standing there with your camera not taking any pictures." I said, "I was just in awe at seeing it." He goes, "Some freaking researcher you are."
Yeah, he didn't mince any words, man. I remember he called the guy. I won't mention his name, but remember the chickenologist? He used to call the kid the chickenologist.
He had nicknames for everybody.
It was Brian. I won't mention a last name, but he's like, yeah, we went to this house. I wasn't on this case, but he's like, yeah, I told him, sorry, Brian, you go down in the basement or up in the bedroom or something. He's like, by myself? He's like, yeah. He wouldn't do it. So he sent us to the case in Huntington one time, Shelton area. Nellie. Do you remember the Nellie case? Remember Nellie case?
Yeah.
He's like, he called me up, and Ed was there that afternoon. He said, Nellie called me and said, Ed, I need help. Come over. So he went over to the house. He said, you know, he's calling Nellie, knocking on the door. She didn't answer. He opened the door, walked in the house. Ed, I'm in here. I'm in the bedroom. Says he goes in the bedroom. He opens the bedroom door, and he sees this. She sees like she's laying on her side, facing the other way. And she sees the form of a woman in the bed. And he's like, you know, what is it, Nellie? He's like, and all of a sudden, the blanket just fell to the ground. She disappeared. It wasn't her. She was staying with her sister. He found out later she wasn't even there. Yeah. And he's like, he ran out of the house, and he said all the pillows on the couch came and were flying at him. And it was really, really, I was like scared. I was getting goosebumps when he's telling me. He goes, I want you and Brian to go there, take all your equipment, spend the night. I want you running all your cameras and taking pictures and putting audio, you know, devices out. And So I get there, and I was running a little. I was probably about 20 minutes late. I called him, and I said, I'm going to be a couple minutes late. I said, why don't you go in and start getting set up? I pull up in the driveway, and he's outside with another guy I never met, this long, tall guy, I remember. I guess he was a colleague from work because he worked at a local access studio. So he had access to cameras and monitors. I'm like, what are you doing out here? He's like, I was waiting for you. I'm not going in. I'm like, what do you mean you're not going in? Let's go. So I used to call him the chickenologist. I love that story.
Oh, yeah. Hey, he had nicknames for everybody, including me.
I'm sure he had one for me, but I was careful never to make him mad, John. He never yelled at me. Did I know? No. No, I talk to Chris sometimes, and Chris is like, oh, my grandfather loved you. He didn't like me. I said, hey, well, whatever. Got that charm. No, he was a great guy.
When Ed got mad, he got mad.
Well, I've seen him mad, but I was never on the receiving end of it, so I was happy. I'm happy to say, but yeah,
I've never really got to. I've seen people really catch the brunt from him. I got to agree with you. I never really caught it that bad. Yeah. I can remember Lorraine saying that a few times too. She goes, "He's yelling at you, but he's not yelling at you."
Yeah.
And I would go, well, what do you mean? And she goes, never mind, just let it go. So again, yeah, I think each and every one of us at different points in time would see that.
When we were one year, we were going to the Stony Hill Inn in Bethel. Remember that place?
Mm-hmm.
And they did it there every year, and then John Helstosky was with us, and John and I, we both worked for cable companies, so we would go run all the cable, get everything ready, and then I was like the security, 350 pounds, bench pressing 600 pounds, Lorraine used to give me all the cash. One time I literally had like 10 grand in my pockets. My pockets are all bulging, so anyway. We get there about an hour before, or hour and a half before, and there's a wedding going on. So Ed, his veins started popping out of his neck. And I never saw him this angry, but he was screaming at the owner. They were going back and forth because they double booked. And the wedding was supposed to end at 6, but I think our event was supposed to start at 5 or something like that. And I remember people started showing up early, and I had to do crowd control. Lorraine's like, well, just tell anybody if they can't wait, we'll refund their money. And I think only a couple of people did. But I told them it's going to be a little bit of a wait. Try to say, look, the place overbooked. We're sorry, blah, blah, blah. But I had never seen him that angry. I thought they were going to come to physical blows. That's how mad he was. He was like a tomato. And he was screaming at that guy. And they were dropping F-bombs too. I won't say it here. But I'd never seen him that mad before. I'm like, oh God, I hope he never gets mad at me. And then Lorraine and I would lock ourselves. She'd, come on, honey, let's go. We'd lock ourselves in a little coat room and should count the money and stuff. I said, I was your security. Oh, those are the good old days, man. The
Halloween dinners used to be great. I used to love doing those, and when they used to do the theater gigs, when they used to go to the regular theaters, and they would let them do them there, and they'd have a jam-packed house. I'll never forget, always jam-packed.
Yeah,
it was good.
Sometimes you'd get some people in the crowd that were disrespectful, and that it was my job to ask them to leave.
Well, he would tell him to shut the hell up. He would tell him to shut the hell up.
Well, he would, but then he'd look at me, Joe. He'd just look at me and say, hey, Joe. And I'm like, okay. Ed said, you got to go. I'm not leaving. You're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm an old man. Now I get my ass kicked. You should see my son, John. He's bigger than me.
Yeah?
Yeah. He's a corrections officer. Not me. Take care of the old guy when he's getting, in his old age. Sorry, Heather.
Oh, no, I'm enjoying the stories.
I didn't know John was going to be here. You can go make some coffee if you want. No,
okay, I can leave. Yeah, no.
I'm teasing you, dear.
No, that's fine. I enjoy the stories,
Oh, God. How many we have, I'm sure.
Tons.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
But one thing I want to know, I know my interpretation of how things have changed, but how do you guys feel the paranormal field has changed from when you started to the cat balls of today?
it's difficult because I try to adjust. I try to understand some of the stuff where it's a totally things are just so totally different now from what just over the past 5 to 6 years, give or take a few. It's changed tremendously.
Yeah.
I think it's not so much that because people a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, you don't want anybody to get involved with anything or anything." No, it's not that. A lot of people don't even want to take the time to even freaking learn about anything anymore. And they just jump into it, and then we have to end up trying to straighten it out or clean up the mess. Mm-hmm. And it's, again, what the biggest thing is with everybody today is make sure they get the site out there, make sure they do many pitches for as many TV shows as they can till it finally can get picked up. Mm-hmm. So, it's a different environment today. It's difficult. I'm lucky that I can keep my mouth shut. I don't put any postings up. I'll throw a little curve here and there once in a while, but I don't usually say too much one way or another. But I think it's, again, I never thought I'd see it to where it is today. Joe, did you ever think you'd see it like it is today? No, I never.
And it's sad too, because you're absolutely right. And I'm going to say hi to everybody, because everybody probably on this thread right here has heard me say this before, that people don't want to put in the 51 years or the 35 years or the 37 years to learn. Yeah, we were lucky. We learned from the best. We had mentors. But I tell people, like, oh, I've been doing this 10 years. I'm like, have you been doing it for 10 years, or you just been interested for 10 years and out in cemeteries? And there's nothing wrong with that. But don't misrepresent yourself, because if some family asks you for help and you go in their house, they're looking at you as the expert. And they need help. How many times, John, have you been contacted by somebody and say, oh, I got in over my head. I don't know what's going on. Something followed me home. I did this. I brought a Ouija board into the cemetery. Well, what the hell are you bringing a Ouija board in the cemetery for? I mean,
Joe, this is the norm now. Mm-hmm. This is the norm. Yeah. That the majority of everything is handled the way people handle things. Yeah. I mean, my residential cases, I still haven't varied from the way I handled it. I keep them, small. I'm not interested in the big hoopla. A lot of the families aren't interested in going public. They're not interested. They want help. Okay, go in, try to help them, see what we could do to help them out, and move on. I don't even put pictures up. I don't, it's not that big of a deal. To me, it's more, if I'm able to help somebody out and get them to be able to move forward, fine. They don't want to ever go public or talk about it. I'm perfectly fine, but a lot of them don't do that today.
None of them really do. I mean, I still have equipment that I used. I mean, the best evidence I get is from my 30-year-old Sony magnetic tape recorder.
I still use mine.
I mean, I have my Bible, I have my holy water, I have my crucifix, I have my rosary beads. I have two sets. I have a set that Lorraine gave me years ago, and then I have a set that were blessed by the Pope that a friend of mine brought back from the Vatican. But I don't, like I said, I mean, I joke about these cat balls and stuff like that, but I don't use this stuff because it's unproven. Mm-hmm. People are like, oh, they're going off, or, maybe they happen to go off when you ask a question, and people start freaking out. But it's like, okay, you go into a house or a place of business or something, and you do find something, or you find something in there, or something happens. Then what do you do? What are you prepared to do about it? You just want to capture that evidence and, like you said earlier, sell it to the highest bidder and get your 15 minutes of fame. What are you prepared to do about it? Ed used to say that. He's like, these investigators, he goes, they only do half the work. They go in with all this equipment, maybe find something, but then they're like scared out of their minds. How many times you got a call from a homeowner saying, I had this team in here. They got scared and they left. They couldn't get out of here fast enough. And they just left me hanging. They won't take my calls. They won't show me they won't tell me what happened. They won't show me any evidence. But yet, you turn around, you look them up on the internet, and they're still out there going on to the next case. Meanwhile, they left this family hanging. And you're dealing with real people, real emotions. And, you can't do that to people. I mean, are there cases where there's nothing we can do? Yeah. There has. I had one back in 2011. Well, I had one in 2011. I got to mention. There was a couple of sisters. They lived together, and one of the sisters wasn't married. She was single, I believe. She was a little older. The younger sister had a husband. She had 2 teenagers, twin daughters that were 8, and then a baby who was like a year and a half. And the baby seemed to be the target of the activity. And I've got pictures, I got video of the baby being slapped across the face. I mean, a year and a half old, you know? Mm-hmm. And what happened was the brother-in-law and the sister-in-law hated each other. Mm-hmm. They could not get along. They hated each other. They couldn't stand being in the house when the other one was around. And I pulled her aside early on in the case, and I said, listen, unless you guys come together as a family, I'm not going to be able to do anything for you. I said, because it's just feeding off all this aggression and this fighting. You know, she's like, well, I hate him. I said, well, you better start warming up to the fact that this activity is not going to go away, and it's probably going to get worse. You know, and this is a case where I actually had their local priest was going to come in and just do a blessing. I mean, he couldn't do an exorcism, but he was going to come in and do a blessing. About an hour before, John, he calls me up. He's like, Joe, I can't go. And I'm like, what happened? He's like, I can't talk about it. I can't go. He was scared. I mean, priests are people first, but he was scared. And I think that, his bishop might have told him that not to do it. But my point is, if you can't love each other and come together as a family to battle whatever your affliction you may be having, there's nothing I can do for you. No. I mean, look at Enfield, John. I won't mention any names, but I tried to help those people for 4 years. And they just started going from TV show to TV show. And I said, if you do this and you exploit your family, don't call me anymore. Literally crying on the phone one night. Don't do this, Joe. I need you. My kids need you. I said, then why the hell are you exploiting them? You're not listening to me. And behind my back, you're bringing in teams and charging them to investigate your house. So no,
I know. Again,
he told me that you yelled at him, or maybe you told me that. That you yelled at him because you had Joe in Orlando here. What do you need me for? He wanted to be on the show. That was his goal because he started getting money. I remember the producer from My Ghost Story called me once, and he wanted some information. And he's like, this guy and his wife are driving me crazy. I was going to fly him out to LA for 2 days, do the segment and then send him home. And they were complaining. They're like, well, that doesn't give us any time to see the sights or whatever. He's like, I'm not paying for you to see the sights. I'm paying for your story. And then he got so frustrated with him. He said, forget it. I'm not interested anymore. So it's not only these so-called investigators, it's also the people that are looking for help.
Oh, yes. That's a big turnaround these days, too. Usually as soon as I talk to somebody or, I get involved, you start to get the feel right away where it's going, what it's about. Again, especially if we've been around for a while, we know the questions to throw out. We know what to say, what to ask. And usually you can tell right away, okay, what they're looking for. And, you got those certain ones. I hang up the phone and I'll sit here and go, they think they're going to end up with a freaking movie and a book deal out of this. Mm-hmm. That again, you can tell, a lot of times with that or, when it's just too lined up perfectly on everything that they're telling you and that's happening. But I think all of us had many of those cases where it ends up turning out where the people are a little bit sharper than what we are. We're trying to get PR.
Yeah. Well, I remember, a few years ago, remember I called you and I said there was some producers were asking us if we were interested in doing the show, and you looked, you like, are you effing crazy? And you told me what you had gone through and how they wouldn't even let you watch the segment until it aired. And I'm like, I'll be damned if I'm going to let some 24, 25-year-old snot-nosed producer fresh out of college tell me what to do.
Oh, Joe, no, you'll be killing people.
I told him, I said, I'm going to do what I do, and you're going to let me, or it's no deal. And it was always no deal. I'm not interested in being on TV. I always tease and say I have a face for radio. Maybe I should turn my camera off.
In that aspect, I've actually been lucky. I've had a production company that I trusted, and I think they did a good job. with,
I'm not
but I've
saying
heard,
they're all bad, but
I've
the
heard
ones
horror stories.
It's just all I want to do is help people that need it and educate people.
Mhm.
Educate, would-be paranormal investigators. Look, if your heart's in it and you want to really help people, I'll help you. But let's cut through the BS. Are you just looking to get, the money shot and try to sell it to the Travel Channel or something? I mean, you can tell those people a mile away, and that's most of what's out there. I'm not saying everybody, but most of what's out there, because I say things sometimes and people get upset with me.
Well, Joe, they get upset with all of us.
But I tell it like it is.
That's here again. Dude, that's one thing I gotta say. You do the same thing I do. You just say it like it is. And you know what? If somebody doesn't like it, oh well.
People don't want to hear the truth. I mean, I've never turned my back on anybody, but even the people that are being afflicted, I tell them, I need you to do this and this. Well, I can't do that. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Do you need help? Oh yeah, I want help. But I'm like, well, then I'm telling you, we've got a case we're working on now, where the woman hasn't done anything we've asked of her. Anything.
Then again, it takes away from going and moving forward with helping somebody that is looking for the help. See, I'll cut the ties quick. Ed, he used to try to drill that into me like I couldn't believe. He would always say to me, "You need to know when to walk away, kid. You need to know that." And I go, "But they need help." He goes, "You're missing it." Joe, so many of those things will come back now. And I'll stand there and go, "Son of a gun, he was freaking right."
Yeah,
he goes, "You got to know when to walk away," and he's 100% right. He goes, "You got to walk away and not look back."
Look, I love the man. I know you did. He was a little rough around the edges at times, but like you said, when I think back, I'm like, he was right. He was right. You be honest with people. Anything less would be disrespectful. And if they don't want to hear the truth, then I can't help you.
Yeah.
And then someone will turn around and say, "Oh, it left me hanging. You wouldn't help me." No, that's not the truth. You need to help yourself. You need to help me help you. I'm not coming in with a proton pack on my back with the ecto chamber. I said, if your house has something in it, you need to take your house back. This is your home. That's my biggest pet peeve, is when someone's like, "Oh, I don't want to go in my own house," or I don't want to go in the laundry room downstairs or go up in the attic. You're paying a mortgage or rent on your home, and if you need me to come in and hold your hand because you're afraid to go somewhere in your house or go in your house alone, that's a problem. I said, you need to help me help you. I'm not going to come in and do all the work. You're going to do it. I'll back you up. I got your 6, but if you're not going to listen to us and do what we ask of you, and we'll guide you and give you strength, but it frustrates me. Can you tell? It frustrates the hell out of me. And everybody on this thread knows what I'm talking about because I know them all.
Okay, here's a good advantage, and you have this too, where when you do have this, you're talking to these people, and then you're listening, and I'll go, "Okay, have you had any paranormal groups in there? You had anybody in there trying to help you?" And then they'll get quiet for a minute, and then they'll go, "No." Right then and there, they're lying to you.
Yeah.
And then when they start giving you other information, and I'll go, "Well, okay." But then when they do tell me, and it's people that I know, and I know how they react, and you're making me bring it up because they'll say, "Oh, they walked away from me," and I'll go, "I know them. If they walked away, there's a reason."
Mm-hmm.
What? I go, "I know them. Don't try and tell me, about somebody I know or why they walked away, probably because you didn't want to follow through with anything. Oh, well, you guys should be coming in here and fixing everything." No, that's not what we're about. No. So again, Heather, you can tell we're the same. You see how both of us get all freaking fired up.
John and I
and everything I agree with. I mean,
maybe
my
we are,
favorite
man. Let's get a DNA test.
My favorite is when you tell them that it's only your team coming in, and like for us, it's just the 3 of us, my husband and my son and I, and they're like, "Oh, just you 3?" And it's like, "Well, who are you expecting?"
Oh yeah.
So who do you need? How many do you need?
Right. Yeah.
You can't do an investigation with 50 people. That's why I love these public ghost hunts. Look, they're fun, they're entertaining, but that's what they're meant to be.
That's exactly
That's
it.
what they're meant to be. They're fun. It's entertainment. People pay a lot of money. You know, John, we don't charge a penny for what we do. We never have. And I could bring my wife on the next show, and she could vouch for that. We don't charge to help people.
I never have.
You know, how many people have come to you and said, "Oh, you know, I've been charged $10,000 so far, and it's still here."
Yep.
I'm like, well, you know, and then you know they go back to the person that charged them because this happened to Lynn in Meriden. You know who I'm talking about, right? She was charged $10,000 or $15,000. This woman came in and said, "It's clear, it's gone." It wasn't gone. I knew that. But then when Lynn called her up and said, it's still here. Well, you must have brought it back in. You must have gave it recognition and brought it back in. It was BS story. Meanwhile, she bilked her out of thousands of dollars. And I'm like, you call me. I'm one town over. I'll be right down. And all I'm going to charge you is a glass of diet soda.
Yeah.
You know,
no, I never have. I mean, the one thing I will, if somebody's going to offer me some money, I do take it. And you know what?
Donation. Yeah.
You know what I do with it? I freaking split it up for everybody for money for gas. These people work. These people got families. Again, the price of gas and everything. I have no qualms for doing that.
To pay for the travel expenses.
I know it. It's
we do ask for travel expenses. I mean, I just came back from New York. It was going 5 days.
Yeah.
Me and 4 members of my team, 3 members, you know, and the family was extremely serious. They were very gracious. They paid for my gas. You know, they paid for the travel expenses for my colleagues. And that's all we ask. Now, given that said, if someone doesn't have the means to pay those expenses, I'm still going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm never going to turn somebody away. Oh, I can't afford to pay for your gas or your hotel room. I'll be there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I don't know how many people can say that, but I know we can.
I don't know. I got receipts dating back to the Stone Ages for gas and travel. I'll tell you, the good old days when it was nothing. You would jump in the car and take off and go all over the place and do stuff and everything. Boy, oh boy, I'll tell you what. A lot of us I know take that step back and go, ooh, this trip's going to end up costing me a couple $100 just to go out, and check around. So anyways, but no, taking money for the gas and for food or stuff like that, I have no qualms. Charging them for service for doing it, I got a problem with that. I won't do it. I never have, never will.
I know you don't.
Yeah.
None of us do. None of us do. I mean,
yeah, and I always leave a care package with just a few things to make them comfortable, whether it's, based on their beliefs, whether it's sage or, different oils or anything like that. And it's, it's almost like my thank you for them letting me come in.
Yeah.
and, I'm helping them, but they're also helping me because I don't really want to say practicing, but that's essentially what it is. We're honing our skills, I guess you would say, with every investigation we do.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still learning.
I'm still learning.
I mean, I learned from you guys. I learned from everybody here. I mean, I'm no better than anybody else. I'm just a guy that's been doing this a long time.
See,
you leave your ego at the door. I can't stand egos. Drives me bananas.
I think one of the most important things with this is if we stop and we don't look at things differently, if we don't advance ourselves and look at, the big environment of things, we're never going to advance within the field. So therefore, I always keep an open mind with everything. I might not agree with everything, but I keep an open mind with everything and watch everything because, again, that's the only way we're going to be able to advance and to be able to prove things out. That's why, Joe, a lot of times I laugh when somebody calls me and they'll go, I got no scientific proof. What scientific proof?
Yeah.
I said, it's a spiritual field we deal with.
Well,
I'm laughing because I just did it. No, dude, I just did.
I'm sorry.
The other night.
I apologize to all my listeners out there.
No, the other night we were at a location and there was 2 cats there and they had the little cat balls out and the cats were chasing them all over the place. And me with my humor, I turn around and go, well, they chasing the balls or are they chasing a ghost? What are they chasing? But I was joking around with them. But anyhow, again, a lot of that with the technology and everything, I do keep an open mind with it. But nothing is scientifically proven now. What do we need to prove something scientifically? Repeatability. And Casper will not always do what we want it to do. But gathering all the data, gathering all the information, to me, that's very important. Hopefully somewhere down the road, it can be plotted out and charted.
Remember, you're right. You're absolutely right. Remember, Ed always used to say, remember, Joe, he goes, spirits don't come on your time. They come on their time.
Correct.
You know? So, if you're dabbling in the occult, or you're using some kind of form of divination and, tarot cards or Ouija boards and, things like that, you could say, well, I've used it for years and nothing's happened. I said, well, 10 years down the road, you never know. It's going to wait till you're at your most vulnerable. Maybe if you're drug addicted or alcohol or depressed, or you're into pornography or something like that. I mean, that's when they're going to strike. They're going to be looking for what we call victim souls. Those people that are easy targets, not like you and I, although, we're still targets because we poke the bear,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But, you're not going to get that instant gratification. Like, light up my flashlight, and then it goes on. Ooh, it doesn't mean anything. Not to me anyway. I mean, I tell people, look, if there is something with intelligence that wants to make its presence known, you'll know about it. It's going to let you know. From Meriden, Carmen's case. And you lived there for what, 9 weeks?
9.5 weeks.
9.5 weeks. You lived with that family. I mean, that was about as real as it gets.
Yeah.
We could save that for another show because that'd take a whole another hour or so. But this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. But people are like, oh, I felt something touch me. Something touched my hair. I'm like, I could lie with the best of them, but I won't. My dad used to taught me. I say this a lot. I have to wake up every morning, look myself in the mirror, and I have to like what I see. Okay, all I have is my name and my integrity, and they're not for sale. So, if I don't have a TV show, if I'm broke, I don't care. I can still look myself in the mirror and like what I see.
So you got to, okay, Joe, we're at that point. Well, I'm at that point now when somebody says anything to me or anything, I go, there's two things I got left to do. Pay my taxes and die, or die and pay my taxes. Anything else I don't give a shit about no more.
Yeah.
So it don't matter. So again, that's my view and the way I look at it with so much of it, I guess. Again, I don't know. But it's definitely a crazy different world out there today. I'll take the step back and just go, oh, okay, all right. And in my mind, I'm going, ticky, ticky, tock, tock. I'm out of here, and I don't want to be bothered. But I'll just let it go and just rather move on. Because a lot of times, if you say anything or do something, Joe, you have like a stampede of people that attack you now. It's crazy. So
it doesn't really happen to me, fortunately. But I don't engage. I don't engage on social media. I tell, I teach our folks, don't engage it. No, regardless of what they say. But I've told people when I lecture, I said, if you don't agree with the Warrens, if you don't like them, you don't agree with their methodology or whatever, that's fine. You're entitled to that opinion. I said, but do not disrespect them, because you might as well be disrespecting me. I'm sure you feel the same way. Somebody said anything bad about the Warrens, I'm like, look, you're entitled to your opinion, but I would shut up right now. All right, keep your opinion to yourself. But you get these cowards; they sit behind their keyboards and they could say whatever they want. Well, it's a free country, But why would you do that? I mean, why would you do that? I say, look, don't engage in it. It's just not worth it. Nobody wins those arguments.
It's the nature of it today. It's just the nature of it. Okay, Ed used to have a saying all the time, and I can remember this, and he used to say it continuously. You could do 100 good things. You do one thing wrong, and that's what people will remember.
It's true.
He used to say that to me all the time.
That's true.
All the time he used to say that.
I remember,
So,
But it's so true. It's so true. Mm-hmm. I mean, even in my house, it's true.
All our houses.
Never mind.
One thing I just wanted to say real quick is when you were talking about staying with that family for 9.5 weeks, you don't see that now with teams.
No.
They go for 4 hours and they're done.
Yeah. I don't recommend it anymore, to be honest with you. There were several other cases after the Snedeker one that I ended up spending several weeks on. And then it got to the point where, it gets too, they rely too much upon you, and you become too close to the situation where you end up falling victim right along with the families. So again, I limit the amount of time that I do things or I stay at places. I mean, I think the most I've ever stayed now was like 3 or 4 days tops at a location or something, and that would be because I was traveling. Local, I usually don't do that anymore. And if there's going to be bad weather, I won't go on the case anymore. I went one time on a case, got stuck in a blizzard. It was the worst freaking house you could have ever stayed in. I got stranded in it. So now, when there's bad weather, I go, we're getting it rescheduled.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still amazed that teams go in for just one shot, 2-3 hours, yes or no, it's haunted. And I mean, we've had cases where we've had to go, I mean, we would stay for the 4 hours, but we would go back several different times.
Yeah.
To compare evidence and try to get the answers, because you can't just do it. It's not like a lot of the TV shows where you have an hour and look at all this evidence you captured in 1 hour.
Yeah. And you got to be careful what you do in that home, because eventually you're leaving.
Yep.
So you don't want to stir the hornet's nest too much, because then you go home and, holy shit happens after you leave.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or it could. So you gotta
or it follows you home.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have stuff happen to me all the time here. I mean, I remember one case. It's a kind of a funny story, but one case some years ago, something followed me home. I could feel it, and I was pretty pissed off that it was pretty persistent, And I said, if you go after my kids or my wife, I will kill myself and come after you in the afterlife. I was so angry. It left. I'm like, get out of my house, by the power of Jesus Christ. And I tell people, you need to invoke Jesus Christ. You don't just say, I command you to leave. No, just a man. He's going to laugh at me. No, so you got to be careful. When you have to poke the bear. If you're dealing with something demonic, you need to know what you're dealing with. You got to get it to identify itself, to reveal its identity. Remember, I would say that. I command you in the name of Jesus Christ, the blood of Christ, to reveal your identity. And now it has to reveal its identity. It may push back. It may take a while, but eventually it's going to give that up. And now you have power over it. But people today, they don't know how to do that. They go into these cemeteries or old churches or old asylums, and they think it's funny. And then they see something happen, or they hear a noise and they shit themselves. Oh, sorry, I'm in trouble again. I'm going to be in HR's office tomorrow.
I've asked Todd before. We can swear.
I don't mean to, so I apologize. But I get fired up about this, and it upsets me because people don't take the time to learn the right way. They just watch television shows. Oh, this guy said this is how you do it, so it must be right. I'm like, well, this guy doesn't know his ass from his elbow. It just, remember Johnny made a comment one day. I was watching this show, and I'm like, I'm never watching Sci-Fi Channel again. And you're like, geez, Joe, thanks a lot. Because the one thing I will say is, and I'm watching a little bit of it, that with the streaming networks, they're not as constrained as they were with the networks, the actual networks. So when I do watch bits and pieces on different things, which is rare and far and few in between that, I'll sit and even watch anything paranormal. But again, I noticed they're a little bit more, opened up with it, where they're not, everything is so confined and constrained the way it used to be. I couldn't even talk about demonology on my show. We were not allowed to talk about demonology. I couldn't talk about demons, couldn't talk about certain things, couldn't do this, couldn't do that. And it was just like, I couldn't work like that.
But that it was once, you learn and you understand what in details, Joe, it's like going to a job. Yeah. You got to deal with the bosses. You got to deal with the networks. You got to deal with the attorneys, the sponsors. There's so much that ties in with it that, and I talk about this openly in my lectures too, that, people don't understand a lot of times, you can't say or do certain things because the liability factor kicks in right away.
Yeah.
So it's weird, but again, it's the nature of it with a lot of different things.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, and sometimes you have to have a PhD to understand these contracts. And a lot of the contracts, if not all of them that I've looked at, they're like, if you sign this contract, you just signed over all your rights to any evidence that you got. They could use it for what. And I'm like, no way. I'm not doing that.
yeah.
Because
you need more than a PhD, Joe. I have one, and I have an agent that looks over everything for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you have to.
The families that really want and need our help don't want to be on television.
No,
and I'm careful when I use cases as a teaching mechanism to educate others. I don't mention places, locations, names. I'm very vague with the location. But I'll tell you what happened there and what we did to help the family. But I'm not going to divulge any information that's going to identify them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll always ask permission too. Do you mind if I talk about this case to educate? I've never had someone say no. But that's what I do with my lectures. I have a lot of fun. I got a personality, I think. But when I'm serious, I'm serious. And but I try to keep it light. Because you never know what your audience is going to be. Sometimes there's children there. People bring their 8-year-olds. I'm like, you may not, So you got to be careful.
That's a whole different ball of wax today too. I mean, it just blows. My kids, when they were growing up and everything, I kept them away from everything. I didn't let them get involved with any of it. And I still look at it that way, but not everybody else does today. Today, it's so totally different. I do a lot of events and get involved with things, and these people bring their kids, and I just cringe. And there's even people, from the TV shows that bring their kids on everything, and I'm like horrified by a lot of it. But it's the nature of the way it is today, and you say anything, everybody gets ticked off at you. So.
I mean,
I made my son wait till he was 16.
Yeah. My daughters and even my son are fascinated by this. Emily's on here too. She's like, Dad, when are you going to let me come work with you? And I don't want you involved in this. Like, well, you started when you were 18. I'm like, well, yeah, you got me there, but I'm protecting them. Now, Amy and Chris, are they doing this still? Or are they out of it? They're not doing it anymore?
Not much. No, they went back to normal lives.
Good.
Chris and Amy, actually, Chris bebopped more with the paranormal than my two daughters ever did. No. Amy actually always was very fascinated with the history of items, and she would look up stuff. And that's how part of that all ended up kicking in with that. But all three of them really don't have that big of a fascination. My oldest daughter wants absolutely nothing to do with the paranormal, nothing. So again, which is perfectly fine. But now my three grandkids, my oldest daughter goes nuts. She goes, I knew this was going to happen. But my three grandkids, oh yeah, Grandpa, what are you doing? Grandpa, what's going on? Grandpa, do this, Grandpa, that. And my daughter will just sit there and shake her head. She goes, I said, you were the one that never wanted nothing to do with anything, and now all three of your kids are interested in it. So I get a big kick out of that.
Yeah. Matter of fact, Heather and I were discussing possibly in one of our future shows having our kids. Now, my twins are 24 now, and my son's 28, so they're adults. But I said, Heather, why don't we bring the girls on and Aiden, and the theme of the show will be like, kids who have paranormal investigator parents or whatever, because they're fascinated by it. And they always they come to my lectures. Emily comes, helps me set up and everything. And God, she could probably stand up there and give one of my lectures. She's been to so many of them, but I'm just not comfortable at any age getting them involved, because I know what I've been through, and it scares me, because I know we all know how real this can get.
Well, see, that's funny you're saying that, because there was something we were doing, and they interviewed my son, and he goes, well, your father never really got any of you involved with anything. And my son said, yeah. He goes, but we used to know anyways. We would hear him sometimes or see different things. He goes, I know what my father got involved with. I know some of the different things that he would talk about. And he goes, the demonology end of this part, he goes, I would never get involved with that. He goes, I seen what it did to my father. He goes, and I said to him after the thing, we were talking and everything, and I was amazed at how much he paid attention to different things that would go on and would happen where I didn't think he did. But it blew my mind with the kids thinking, oh no, I had them totally isolated where they didn't know anything. They knew a hell of a lot more than I ever thought they knew. So again,
yeah, and I hate to cut you guys off, but we are out of time. I didn't even realize time went by so fast.
And we have 2 hours. We need another hour.
No, we don't. We only have an hour. Well, actually, we only have 55 minutes because Todd's got to get to his next broadcast tonight.
Were we supposed to take questions? Because
we had one question, but we can cover that later on, and we'll definitely have John back on because that great conversation going back and forth.
I love seeing you, John. Let's get together soon. Are you going to be home?
That sounds good. Yeah.
Are you traveling? Are you going to be around for a while?
Yep. Actually, I'm home this whole entire month. I'm just out doing some of my cases and stuff. Dude, get a hold of me. Let's get together.
I promise I will. Same phone number,
man.
right?
Yep.
Okay. I'll call you in a couple of days. I promise.
All right, man.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye, John.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.